Now at 9, tariff concerns inspire Carthage small businesses owners to launch the weekend's Spring Fling event. Plus, bargain hunters get a second chance at Neosho's citywide garage sales this weekend with perfect weather in the forecast. And
Quapaw Nation Museum hosts a special event to keep their heritage alive. I'm Lonnie Walton. I'll have that story coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
A Carthage event hopes to promote supporting local businesses in a time of tariff uncertainty. This is KOAM News at 9. I'm Anthony Saviello. KOAM Samantha Walker has more on how the inaugural Spring Fling is bringing together local businesses.
The inaugural Spring Fling, organized by the Carthage Chamber of Commerce, features more than 24 local businesses. Brick-and-mortar stores are opening their doors with deals, and home-based businesses are set up at the McCune-Brooks Healthcare Foundation.
It does stimulate our local economy. Usually for businesses around this time of year, it's a little bit slower because you're still coming off the holidays.
Both organizers and participating business owners say it's an opportunity for the community to support each other as they navigate the potential impacts of tariffs.
While that is something that everyone is talking about, it's when we can have events like this to bring people out, to show that we're open, and every little bit helps a small business. And when we can highlight those, it's always good.
For small business owners, they say right now there's a lot that's unknown.
It can be a little bit freaky at times because you just don't know what's going to happen.
It's something home-based businesses like Hollymer Clay are aware of as well.
At this point in my business, I'm buying only like made in the USA, so I really haven't had an issue.
They add it's more important than ever to support local retailers.
Shopping local is really important because your small businesses are going to support your local community. They'll give straight back into the community versus a big box store.
And when the support comes from their community, business owners say it's all the more meaningful.
That's been the most beautiful part about all of this, is just how the community works together, and I just think it builds relationships in the community, and it's a nice thing to support one another, and I think it builds a happier community, really.
Reporting in Carthage, Samantha Walker, KOAM News.
The Spring Fling continues in Carthage tomorrow, including free photos with the Easter Bunny. You can learn more on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Let's go ahead and check in with meteorologist Doug Hetty for a first look at weather.
Well, definitely turned out to be a fantastic Friday for us today. Yeah, it was a little bit cooler than what we saw on Wednesday, also on Thursday, and yes, a little bit cooler than our average high, but still, it's Friday and a great day. 64 was our high, 68 is our average high, so a smidge below where we should be for this time of the year. Pretty much clear skies. We're going to see pretty much clear skies tonight, and then sunny skies once we go into Saturday. Now, the winds have been decreasing a bit over the past few hours, but they're going to pick up again. As we get into Saturday, the southerly winds increasing, so we'll have gusts 25 to 30 at times, but they get stronger on Sunday. We're going to have gusts near 40 miles per hour, but at least our temperatures look fantastic. So heading into Saturday morning, kind of a chilly start into lower 40s. We're going to look at your weekend forecast here in just a bit.
All right, Doug, see you soon. A memory bench was dedicated today at Triway Elementary in Stella to remember the late Rowan Ford, who was in 4th grade there when she was murdered in 2007. The bench was created as a permanent place she could be remembered at the school. It was paid for through PTA fundraising, Mount Hope Cemetery of Webb City, and Quality Memorials of Carthage. Teachers and staff who taught and knew her came this afternoon to remember Rowan, who will forever be 9 years old. Also, law enforcement who worked her murder case came to honor her. Today is Rowan's birthday. She would have been 27 years old. Well, the weather this weekend is perfect for communities hosting citywide garage sales. The rain forced Pittsburgh to postpone its sale last weekend, but today, with the sun shining and spring in the air, residents took advantage of the opportunity to clear out clutter and cash in on unwanted items, from clothing and toys to tools and treasures. Pittsburgh's citywide sale runs through Sunday. Last weekend's rain also washing out plans for Neosho citywide garage sale, but those sales are back for this weekend. One citizen says citywide sales like this are a great way to bring the community together and to turn unwanted items into something useful for someone else.
We've got some stuff out here that somebody might want. They can refurbish and bring new life to it. They may want, like I said, the specific items that we don't want anymore. You can always bring new life to new things. So this is absolutely a great opportunity for that.
And if you missed it today, there's still time to join in. This Neosho citywide garage sale continues tomorrow as well. Well, the Quapaw Nation Museum hosts a brand new exhibit today called Around the Shoulders. This exhibition highlights a variety of custom-made robes, blankets, and shawls. KOAM's Lonnie Walton talked to residents about their reaction.
The United States expanded. The government took over more and more land from Native Americans.
Barbara Collier is a Native American from Quapaw. She says things have changed a lot since she's grown up. She says her people were treated unfairly in this country.
Settlers that would come in and kill everything and, to maintain their existence, I guess you might say. Some, not all, but some. So this exhibit today with the blankets and robes and shawls are just a part of what we used to do.
And leaders are saying they're trying to keep what they used to do alive. Everett Bandy, Executive Director of Customs of Quapaw Nation, says there are plenty of things to learn.
Explores the way that our tribe made leather painted robes historically and provides information that's not always discussed. It also talks about the introduction of blankets and shawls and how long we've worn them.
Julia Pibishi says she loves her culture and that locals can get a useful experience.
I hope that they could take away some of our ways, a little bit of, hey, let's go get a blanket and wrap around, maybe get a cup of tea and enjoy a book.
Although some locals say they may not be technically a part of the heritage, they say the heritage is a part of them.
Opportunity for me to learn about our neighbors and our friends. They're all different in how they portray their stories and their culture.
Collier says this heritage is powerful.
We're still here.
And if you still want to get that experience, leaders say you have until late fall. Reporting in Quapaw, I'm Lonnie Walton, KOAM News.
Visitors were treated to refreshments during the opening event, and Quapaw Nation tribal members received discounts on selected items. Well, coming up, cancer screenings on the decline.
The number of Americans getting screened for cancer is decreasing. I'm Jonathan Seri in Atlanta. I'll show you why some people may be skipping routine doctor's visits coming up.
America is seeing a significant decline in routine doctor's visits, which could be contributing to the growing number of cancer diagnoses each year. Fox News senior correspondent Jonathan Seri has more on why people may be avoiding those important appointments.
Last year, roughly 2 million Americans were diagnosed with cancer. Still, people are skipping routine doctor's visits and early cancer screening, according to a new study by the Prevent Cancer Foundation.
The 2025 survey showed that only 51% of adults in the U.S. said they'd had a routine medical appointment or routine cancer screening in the last year. And what's particularly troubling about that is it's a 10% decrease since last year. So we're seeing things moving in the wrong direction.
While the exact reason for the decline is unknown, data indicate it could be partially driven by an increase in skepticism of the healthcare system, up 38% from last year. Additionally, Jody Hoyos, CEO of the Prevent Cancer Foundation, points to some of the other top reasons people are not going to the doctor.
There's fear and anxiety, but one of the main reasons we're finding is that people just don't know they needed to be screened. And that's particularly true for people that aren't experiencing any signs or symptoms of cancer, or people who don't have a family history of cancer.
Hoyos reminds people that often in the early stages, you don't have any signs or obvious symptoms of cancer, which is why routine doctor visits are vital.
Early detection equals better outcomes.
April is Cancer Prevention and Early Detection Month, so now may be the perfect time to schedule your screenings. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
Well, research suggests seniors can cut their risk of dementia by doing some weight training. Resistance training twice a week helps protect certain areas of the brain, according to a new data. For the study, researchers recruited 44 adults ages 55 or older with a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment. One group participated in moderate to high intensity weight sessions twice a week, while the control group refrained from any exercise. The study found after 6 months, participants who used resistance training showed improvement in verbal episodic memory. Meanwhile, the control group showed signs of worsening brain parameters. Measles cases have surpassed 700 with outbreaks in 7 different states. 79 cases have led to hospitalization and 3 people have died. 500 cases have been reported in Texas alone. Other states reporting measles cases include Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Arkansas has confirmed its 2nd case of measles, and Oklahoma has reported 12 different measles cases. All of them were listed as unvaccinated or an unknown vaccination status. Doug is next with a complete look at the forecast, and later, the trade war continues between the U.S. and China with new tariffs being pushed. What does this mean for the U.S. economy?
Well, of course, it turned out to be a fantastic Friday, really all week long. After a very wet week last week with showers, thunderstorms, severe weather, we are looking pretty good as we go into the weekend. 51 by 11 down to 45 by 7 a.m. I think our overnight low is going to be right around 43. This stays above that frost level, but yeah, it's kind of chilly. Quick rebound right back to 60 by 10 o'clock in the morning. The winds get kind of moving once again, so we're going to have gusts 25 to 30 at times on Saturday. They get even stronger on Sunday. We'll have gusts near 40, maybe a smidge above. So if you want to get out and do some mowing, Saturday is the better day so you don't have grass and dust blowing all over you. And if we look at our wind forecast, so where's your trash can going to end up? So if we look down the street, you got little to no movement, tipped over nearby neighbor's yard down the street. I think this is kind of a tipped over but nearby kind of situation, which is good. So those winds gusting 25 to 30 by tomorrow afternoon. On Sunday, those gusts are going to be pushing 40, maybe 42-ish during the afternoon. At least we got clear skies. We'll stick with sunny skies on Saturday. We got rain across the eastern seaboard. Here's our next little system. Not a rainmaker, but it will drop a cold front through as we get into Sunday night. All right, let's look at your weekend. We're going to stop at about 6, 7 a.m. Saturday morning. Chilly, lower 40s, but not bad. Quick warm up with those southerly winds. I think by noon, we're going to be into the upper 60s. Let's go into the afternoon. High temperatures this time of the year, roughly about 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Most of us 73, 74, 75, 76 degrees. So mid 70s on your Saturday afternoon. Saturday evening, great for fire pits. We don't really drop off too much. We're going to drop back near 60. Yes, it's going to be a little windy, but the wind's not too strong. They get really moving on Sunday. But look at this, on Sunday afternoon, we pop into lower 80s for highs. We are going to have some clouds kind of rotating through. Sunday night, watch the wind shift line. Here it comes. Here's a cold front, so this will usher in some cooler air as we go into Monday and Tuesday. It's not going to be cold, but yes, it's going to be cooler than what we're going to see this weekend. Great grilling weather. Windy, but look at this, 80s showing up by Sunday afternoon. Now, behind that front, Sunday night, a little cooler for us on Monday, lower 60s for highs. Tuesday, we start to inch back up, mid to upper 60s for highs on Tuesday. Once we get into Wednesday, some showers, a few scattered thunderstorms. Instability doesn't look great, but there is going to be some there. So we should get some thunderstorms. Right now, I'm not too worried about a severe threat, but something we'll keep our eyes on as we go through the next several days. 75 on your Saturday, 82 on your Sunday, 60s Monday and Tuesday, but 70s return on Wednesday and Thursday, also with those chances for rain. Anthony?
All right, Doug, thanks. Coming up, the war on trade continues.
The U.S. and China continue trading punches on tariffs as some business leaders fear a recession could still be on the horizon. I'm Connor Hansen in New York. All the details coming up.
The trade battle between the U.S. and China continues as both countries impose higher tariffs. The back and forth is creating more concern about the U.S. economy. Fox News correspondent Connor Hansen has more.
After President Trump raised tariffs on China to 145%, China responded Friday with its own 125% tariffs on the U.S. China insists it will continue to fight, calling Washington's escalating tariffs a joke. The White House says it's not backing down.
The president made it very clear when the United States is punched, he will punch back harder, and he hopes to make a deal that benefits the American worker and our companies that have been ripped off for far too long.
The changing tariffs have sent the markets up and down throughout the week.
62% Americans have now invested in the equity markets. This huge volatility, it impacts Main Street.
The leader of one of the world's largest hedge funds says an economic downturn is still possible.
But I do believe in the short run that we're going to have rising inflation and we have a potential of having a short-term recession.
Meanwhile, the White House says the tariffs are working, bringing dozens of countries to the table. One of the EU's economic leaders says they are ready to work out a deal.
We're ready to negotiate a mutually acceptable outcome while defending our economic interests.
The White House says it already has more than 15 offers from different countries and hopes to have the first deal done within weeks. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
The European Union applauds President Trump's 90-day tariff pause, but warns it will work to defend its economy. EU finance ministers spoke Friday ahead of an informal meeting in Warsaw to address the trade war. The meeting comes days after President Trump once again raised import tariffs on China to 145% and temporarily suspended the 20% reciprocal tariffs he imposed on Europe. The European Commission is in charge of trade policy for the 27-nation bloc and is raising concerns as the trade war between the U.S. and China escalates. The S&P Global Market Intelligence Report says there were 188 corporate bankruptcies in the first quarter of this year. That's up from 139 bankruptcies in the first quarter of 2024 and is the highest level of corporate bankruptcies since 2010. The report says companies with weak balance sheets are struggling with debt, which is refinanced at higher rates than when debt financing is first issued. Industrials sector with the most bankruptcies at 32, and consumer discretionary companies, which sell goods and services people want, were second with 24. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission announced on Thursday that Fisher-Price is recalling more than 250,000 stroller toys that may pose a choking hazard. The recall applies to the Fisher-Price Brunch and Go stroller toys. The agency says at least 5 customers have reported that the toy cracked. 2 people added that a small piece of the broken toy got inside their infant's mouth. No injuries have been reported. The recalled product was sold at major retailers including Hobby Lobby, Kohl's, Macy's, Ross, and Walmart stores nationwide and online at Amazon. Still to come, Food Truck Fridays are back in Carthage, kicking it off in Central Park. We'll take you there. A 4-state's favorite event, that's also the definition of supporting small local businesses, returns to Carthage today. Food Truck Friday circled Central Park with everything from sweet to savory on the menu. Family fun events also featured live music.
Seeing these vendors coming out and doing what they're passionate about, and then after that, seeing people patronize them and seeing how excited they get and how they're really passionate about what they do. I love that. I love seeing people coming out, smiles on their faces.
Just in case you missed Food Truck Friday today, the event runs until September. The next Friday you can dig into your favorite food truck is May 9th. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way.
President Trump's immigration crackdown is running into legal hurdles in a number of major cases. I'm Caroline Shively in Washington. I'll have that story coming up.
And President Trump targets the Smithsonian. We'll tell you why. You're watching the 4 States' most watched news. President Trump's immigration crackdown is being tested in the courts. Judges handed down several rulings today on various cases, some in the administration's favor and others not. Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively has the details from Washington.
President Trump's immigration crackdown back in the courts with 4 major cases. Friday afternoon, a federal judge ruled the deportation case against campus activist Mahmoud Khalil can proceed. Khalil says he was arrested for protesting the war in Gaza and Columbia University's ties to Israel.
This administration wants to silence Mahmoud, wants to silence people speaking out against the government of Israel or government of United States.
Khalil is in the U.S. legally, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio wrote in a court memo that he should be deported to protect Jewish students from harassment and violence, even if his activities were otherwise lawful.
No one's entitled to a student visa.
On Friday, a district judge ordered the Trump administration to give a detailed update on how officials are following a Supreme Court ruling to facilitate Kilmar Abrego Garcia's return to the U.S. after he was mistakenly sent to a notorious El Salvador prison.
This so-called administration error has destroyed my family's happiness.
And in a third case, the Justice Department dropped charges against Henry Josue Villatoro Santos after a highly publicized arrest in Virginia last month, where officials claimed he was the East Coast head of MS-13. Instead, Santos is set to be deported. Also on Friday, a federal judge said immigration agents could continue to conduct enforcement operations at houses of worship. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
On Monday, the Trump administration announced the Internal Revenue Service could share that information with ICE. That's the IRS information. Opposers say federal law requires a court order for the IRS to share that data. The agency is allowed to share taxpayer information for use in criminal investigations. The Department of Homeland Security says the provision allows the data sharing since it is for migrants already facing deportation orders. The suing groups argue that only applies to individualized requests and not wholesale requests for bulk data. A hearing is scheduled for next week on the matter. President Donald Trump will have his annual physical today. The exam will take place at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Trump first posted the news on social media on Monday, saying that he's never felt better. Back in November 2023, his doctor echoed a similar sentiment. Trump at the same time posted a letter from Dr. Bruce Ehrenwald that said Mr. Trump's overall health was excellent. Trump turned 79 years old in June. A recent executive order from President Trump targets the Smithsonian Institute. The order appears crafted in part to direct the museums to soften or restrict discussions about race, including the history and impact of racism in the United States, but it's still unclear what precise changes Trump wants to make. Karen Kafa reports from Washington.
Its 21 museums and the National Zoo draw millions to the nation's capital every year. And in late March, President Donald Trump signed an executive order slamming the Smithsonian Institution, vowing to stop government spending on, quote, exhibits or programs that degrade shared American values, divide Americans based on race, or promote programs or ideologies inconsistent with federal law and policy. The reaction from historians and activists has been fierce.
The executive order, titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, really a law that would do just the opposite.
Some taking special offense to Trump putting Vice President J.D. Vance, who serves on the Smithsonian's Board of Regents, in charge of the changes.
The president has charged the vice president with essentially whitewashing history.
Nearly 17 million people visited Smithsonian properties last year, according to the museum's website. In his executive order, President Trump specifically named the National Museum of African American History and Culture, claiming that it carried exhibits and promoted language he deemed inappropriate.
I think it should be left as it is. It's history. I was trying to hurry up and get out here before things change with the museum, because Black history is American history.
With more than 200 Smithsonian affiliates across the country, the order's impact could be felt well beyond Washington.
This executive order would cause the death of museums, libraries, and other entities that strive to provide accurate narratives about the history of this country.
CNN reached out to the Smithsonian Institution and were told they have no comment for now. Reporting in Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Doug is next with a complete look at the forecast and later.
3, 2, 1. I was one of the first in the world to play the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's a big upgrade from the last version. I'm Eamon.
Well, of course, it turned out to be a fantastic Friday, really all week long. After a very wet week last week with showers, thunderstorms, severe weather, we are looking pretty good as we go into the weekend. 51 by 11 down to 45 by 7 a.m. I think our overnight low is going to be right around 43. This stays above that frost level, but yeah, it's kind of chilly. Quick rebound right back to 60 by 10 o'clock in the morning. The winds get kind of moving once again, so we're going to have gusts 25 to 30 at times on Saturday. They get even stronger on Sunday. We'll have gusts near 40, maybe a smidge above. So if you want to get out and do some mowing, Saturday is the better day so you don't have grass and dust blowing all over you. And if we look at our wind forecast, so where's your trash can going to end up? So if we look down the street, you got little to no movement, tipped over nearby neighbor's yard down the street. I think this is kind of a tipped over but nearby kind of situation, which is good. So those winds gusting 25 to 30 by tomorrow afternoon. On Sunday, those gusts are going to be pushing 40, maybe 42-ish during the afternoon. At least we got clear skies. We'll stick with sunny skies on Saturday. We got rain across the eastern seaboard. Here's our next little system. Not a rainmaker, but it will drop a cold front through as we get into Sunday night. All right, let's look at your weekend. We're going to stop at about 6, 7 a.m. Saturday morning. Chilly, lower 40s, but not bad. Quick warm up with those southerly winds. I think by noon, we're going to be into the upper 60s. Let's go into the afternoon. High temperatures this time of the year, roughly about 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Most of us 73, 74, 75, 76 degrees. So mid 70s on your Saturday afternoon. Saturday evening, great for fire pits. We don't really drop off too much. We're going to drop back near 60. Yes, it's going to be a little windy, but the wind's not too strong. They get really moving on Sunday. But look at this, on Sunday afternoon, we pop into lower 80s for highs. We are going to have some clouds kind of rotating through. Sunday night, watch the wind shift line. Here it comes. Here's a cold front, so this will usher in some cooler air as we go into Monday and Tuesday. It's not going to be cold, but yes, it's going to be cooler than what we're going to see this weekend. Great grilling weather, windy, but look at this, 80s showing up by Sunday afternoon. Now behind that front, Sunday night, a little cooler for us on Monday, lower 60s for highs. Tuesday, we start to inch back up, mid to upper 60s for highs on Tuesday. Once we get into Wednesday, some showers, a few scattered thunderstorms. Instability doesn't look great, but there is going to be some there. So we should get some thunderstorms. Right now, I'm not too worried about a severe threat, but something we'll keep our eyes on as we go through the next several days. 75 on your Saturday, 82 on your Sunday, 60s Monday and Tuesday, but 70s return on Wednesday and Thursday, also with those chances for rain. Anthony?
All right, Doug, thanks. Coming up in sports, our local Oklahoma high school baseball teams resume play in the Mickey Mantle Classic. Plus, we get our first look at the 2025 Missouri Southern football team in action. Ben McLeish has those stories. Fox was one of the very first media outlets in the world to preview the new Nintendo Switch 2. We have a deep dive on the new features. Fox's Eamon Dignam has more in this Fox on Games.
Nintendo made a big splash with the announcement of the highly anticipated sequel to the Switch. But the Switch 2 will take longer than expected to deliver. Nintendo telling Fox that pre-orders will no longer be available on April 9th, blaming President Trump's new tariffs. But there's still plenty to unbox with the new Switch. Improved chat was a highlight. The previous Switch relied on a mobile app for players to communicate with each other, which could be extremely cumbersome. The new system works with the touch of a button. And if it's paired with a new Nintendo webcam, Switch 2 is visually reminiscent of live streaming, with gameplay taking up a screen and a video of the player in the lower right. The controllers, known as Joy-Cons, are upgraded with mouse-like functionality, with multiple games utilizing the tech, including wheelchair basketball game Drag X Drive. You use the mice on each side of you to roll the chair and steer. And no, you don't need a mouse pad to play. The mice work on most surfaces, including your pants. The new Switch also features an updated graphics package, meaning gameplay will be clearer and faster. Nintendo is also utilizing their fan base to stymie scalpers, pre-orders from the company only being allowed by players with 50 hours playtime on the original Switch console and have purchased at least a 12-month Nintendo Switch Online membership. The Switch 2 is expected to cost about $500, and that comes with the game Mario Kart World. In New York, Eamon Dignam, Fox News.
Well, up next, from a soaring volcano plume in the Philippines to lava-fueled episodes in Hawaii and a golden sunrise in California. It's all in tonight's Take a Look at This. Well, Mother Nature showed off a massive ash plume from a lava flow from 2 volcanoes and a great view of the California Hinge. Jim Rowbottom has those videos in today's edition of Take a Look at This.
Check out this plume rising from a central Philippines volcano. The plume rose about 2.5 miles, officials say. There are no reports of injuries or damage from the event so far, but the ash fall prompted the suspension of school in several villages. And geologists are sharing video of what they call episode 17 of the summit's eruption at this volcano on Hawaii's Big Island. Sounds like a geologist version of a Netflix binge. But there's no chill in this Netflix and chill. The eruption started in December. So far, the running times of the episodes range from just hours to more than a week. Pauses between episodes have ranged from about a day to nearly 2 weeks. Episode 15 had lava fountains surpassing 1,000 feet, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Geologists can't wait for episode 18. Matching the color of that lava, here's a stunning view of the California Henge. The twice-a-year event is when the sun aligns perfectly with the skyline in San Francisco's east-west streets. The guy who captured this said he woke up at 5:40 in the morning to see it and asked if it's worth it. I say yes, but I got up even earlier to write this. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jim Rowbottom.
A lot of us celebrate our pets every day, but doing so is especially important on today because it's National Pet Day. Observed every year on April 11th, the day is dedicated to pets who may not be getting the attention and companionship they deserve. We're talking about orphan pets or those animals at shelters needing a forever home. If you have a pet, this day is also perfect time to double check their vaccination schedule and any medications they may take. Shout out to my 5 dogs at home. Love you guys. That's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us.